Go ahead.
My name is Diane Rasmussen. I was in the special ed area for approximately 15 years. I've always worked with the severe and profound students. They need to work with a special ed teacher when they're doing their internship in some of the different schools. You attend the IEP meetings, you get information through them, through the parent is how they communicate, the speech therapist, things that he or she would recommend, the parents that work with the students, plus the teacher that works with the students. I picked up a lot of my information from the parents, even the students, the parents, and the speech therapist. And all of that is combined. And that's how you learn to work with the student. You might not be able to understand what the student is saying, but somebody else that has been around the student more would be able to say, okay, this is what she or he just said. And after a while, you can pick up on that information. You can figure it out what they're trying to tell you. It's a combination of many things as for you to learn what the child is trying to get across to you. That is through the IEP meetings, teachers that has had involvement with them in the past, through elementary all the way up through high school, since I was a high school teacher. The parents that were involved with them, the speech therapist, the physical therapist, you have to gather all that information from them. Most of that would be in an IEP, but sometimes a lot of just one-on-one talking to them. What if they do this? What if they did this, they did that? What started that? What are their parents like? A lot of times you can pick up information on the parents, either in an IEP meeting, they come to the parent-teachers conferences, and you can figure out what's going on in the school by that, or what's going on at home by just observing and watching. A lot of that information, you have to decide, what do you want this child to learn? How long are you going to have this child? Is this child going to be in the system till they're 21, till they're 18? And then you have to decide, okay, you are going to be doing what they call tracking, probably, which is what will this child be doing once they graduate and or leave the high school? Are they going to be getting a job in the community? Is this what you want? Are they going to be associated with the Center for Independence? Are they going to live at home? Are they going to live in a group home? From that, then you decide what you need to teach them. In science, what do they need to know in your science class? The government class, can they vote? Who is the president? What's the president's name? What's the governor's name? It could possibly be, what's the teacher's name? What's the parent's name? What's the principal's name? What's the janitor's name? It can start very, very low and work your way up. You don't necessarily say, okay, he or she needs to know who the president of the United States is. It's what is going to be the most important for them to live a fullest life they can possibly live. First of all, you got to get the teacher involved, that you're going to put this kid in the classroom. You have to know the teacher really well. You have to be able to, you and the teacher is going to have to decide what they feel that the student is going to need. How do you just have to, sometimes you just kind of have to handpick things. Even with regular ed kids, you might have to do a little handpicking of having them just walk through the classroom, your classroom, meaning the special ed classroom, to get them involved with the students. I think that's the biggest thing I find at the high school. they special ed students sometimes don't know how to act appropriately with the high school. Sometimes special ed students see things inappropriately at the high school, and it takes a lot to explain to the student, no, this is not the way you should be acting. How many kids do you see acting that way to the other? I think when I look back on it, I'm saying probably my granddaughters had could interact with these kids better than most because they spent a lot of time in my room after school. They spent a lot of time listening to what other kids' disabilities were and what we were doing as a group of my parents and myself were sitting down talking. They discovered that you didn't have to be scared of them. They were they were as normal as they possibly could. They needed to be shown how to act appropriately in the classroom, in the commons, in the library, in a class. You know, they had to have examples, but yet when you kind of grow up with that, you figure out you have to set examples, and they figure out how they're supposed to do it. And it's nothing wrong with saying, no, we don't act like that here. This is the way you need to be acting. I think as long as the kids, the special ed kids, realize how they are to be acting in the classroom, you don't have that problem with the other ones accepting them. But they have to learn. They just have. The special ed kids have a lot to learn in the normal life as to how to act and get along with others. You treat him as a regular ed kid. If you give a regular ed kid a 5 going down the hallway, then you give him a 5 or her a high 5. You don't go out and treat him any different, as far as I'm concerned, as any different as you would any other kids. You take them out in the hallway and discuss it with them.
Just like any other student.
Just like any other kid. If they're really a very low functioning, and if they're disrupting the classroom, the parent would know when to take the child out into the hallway. And sometimes they'll just say, would you please come with me? And so then there's you and the parent talking to the kid as to how he should be acting in the classroom. And because of that behavior, he has to go out. And it could be for 5 minutes. It could be a minute. And he can go, you know, they're capable of going back in. If it happens again, then take him out for 2 minutes. Being accepted by other kids, and it's hard to do because the other ones have to realize, figure out what they're capable. The special ed people are capable of doing. They have to treat them like anybody else, but they also need to tell them in a nice and polite way that whatever they're doing is wrong. But I think it's being accepted by the other kids, and that's hard. It's hard for both.
So essentially, like the ability to have real interaction with people and interaction with people that if they were to be out in the community, they'd interact with.
Yeah, this is the way you interact with them.